Just look at what you're wearing. What you just said was too immature for your age. Why can't you ever do anything the way I want? Have any of you ever not experienced criticism or criticized somebody? I'm pretty sure that there's not a single person who has not experienced it or criticized somebody. Even me. I too have criticized others. After all, it's a part of every human's tendency. But it's been a long time since I've last criticized somebody. I know it's hard to believe, but it is something I've improved upon. It is something I'm more aware of now. And it is something I manage much better than I used to. If you asked me this prior to beginning this whole journey of self awareness and discovery, I would have told you I wasn't judgmental. Me? No way. I wasn't I was accepting of others. I didn't discriminate against anyone. I was loving. I did not look down on anyone. I was a good person. But I have learned that you can have all those attributes and more, and there will still most likely be moments of criticism. Now, I want you all to introspect for a moment, because criticism isn't about others or even the kind of people we are. It's about the parts of ourselves that we have failed to acknowledge, the parts of ourselves that we have repudiated. And no matter how we feel about others, judgments will arise until we find the root cause of them, which prevails deep within. Let me define criticism. Criticism is the practice of judging the merits and faults of something, the act of passing severe judgment, censure, or simply fault finding. Now, the world has categorized criticism on the basis of the way they're used into about 22 different categories. Aesthetic criticism, negative criticism, destructive criticism, self-criticism or autocritique, factual criticism, logical criticism, and the list goes on. Aesthetic criticism is when somebody is criticizing your appearance, like, what are you wearing? It is so outdated. Negative criticism is when the person criticizes hurt by the critic's comment, like, you never listen to me, you're so egoistic. The word egoistic is negative, it can hurt anybody's sentiments. When the critique's opinion doesn't matter, it is said to be destructive criticism. Like when you shush somebody so that you can follow up to something. You should shut up and listen to your words. When was the last time you criticized somebody? We all frequently witness ourselves demotivating us or overthinking about our past actions and feel bad about it. Like, why did I make that decision? I cannot do anything right. I'm not good enough. This is called self-criticism or autocritique. We judge in others what we fail to recognize in ourselves, the traits of ourselves that we have subconsciously disowned and detached from. Each one of us possesses all the traits to some extent. Yes, all 4,000 of them, as suggested by Gordon Atwood, an American psychologist. We are all radically the same, but obliged to be different because of the way these traits appear, which is circumscribed by our values. Throughout our lives, we get influenced by so many factors: our parents, teachers, friends, TVs, movies, media, books, etc. And they have each promoted their own opinion on what traits are good and what traits are bad. Through what we have learned from these factors, we have developed our own belief about which of these traits is good and which one is bad. We strive to associate with the traits that we see as good and disassociate from those we see as bad. This is where our criticism originates from. When someone exhibits a trait we view as bad, we criticize them for it, failing to recognize the times we have displayed that trait as well, and overlooking the fact that although we may not be currently displaying that trait, it is present within us. When we judge someone else for something, we are judging something deep within us. We can only perceive in others what we have in ourselves. In truth, none of these traits is fully good or fully bad. There are benefits and drawbacks both to being nice and being mean. When we only focus on the upside of a certain trait, we are infatuated with it. And when we only focus on the downside of a certain trait, we are resentful to it. In short, many of us are attached to this fantasy of how we think life should play out, how we think people should act, and when reality doesn't align with our fantasy, we criticize it. Criticizing someone can seem quite inoffensive, right? When we think about the harm, we think of the hurt it causes to the person we're talking about. But the harm isn't done to the person we're talking about or the person we're judging. It's to ourselves. Our criticism defends ourselves against our fears and insecurities, so we don't have to stand up to them and address them. It parts us from the world we live in. It makes it more troublesome for us to connect with others. It ungrounds us. It brings hate into our heart. It kindles jealousy and resentment. It consumes us rather than filling us up. It provokes us to radiate negative vibes into the universe. It blocks us from attracting influence into our lives. It keeps us entangled in the cycle of guilt and shame. Many racing experts consider Mario Andretti to be the most successful and versatile car racer of all time. During his career, Andretti won the Indianapolis 500, Daytona 500, Formula One World Championship, and Pikes Peak International Hill Climb. He is one of only two drivers in history to win races in Formula One, IndyCar, World Sports Car Championship, and NASCAR. During an interview with Success magazine, Andretti was asked for his number one tip for success in car racing. He said, "Don't look at the wall. Your car goes where your eyes go." When young drivers are starting to race, this is one of the most critical lessons that they learn. When you're driving at 200 miles per hour, you need to focus on the road in front of you. If you look at the wall, then you end up hitting it. The same could be said for your life, your work, and even dealing with the critics. Criticism and negativity from other people are like a wall. And if you focus on it, then you'll run right into it. You'll get blocked by negative emotions, anger, and self doubt. Don't prevent Criticism and negativity don't prevent you from reaching the finish line, but they can certainly distract you from it. However, if you focus on the road in front of you and on moving forward, then you can safely speed past the walls and the barriers that are nearby. In the end, I would like to ask you all a few questions. What choices will you make when you leave here today? Will you stop criticizing somebody else or stop somebody else from criticizing other people? Or will you go about your normal routine? Thank you for lending me your time and ears.